Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for this interview and discussion on WASH priorities in India. I am with Mr. Meenakshisundaram, and he has represents the government as well as with NGOs, including MYRADA. So I would like to ask Mr. Meenakshisundaram to only introduce himself because he can do that better than me. And then we can have a very short discussion on the evolution of water sanitation in India. And the aim of this discussion is to see the perspective of a senior experienced practitioner this field and where are we headed today, where are we today and where we are headed in the future. So welcome, sir.
Thank you. Let me start with my present. I am now the chairman of MYRADA, Mysore Resettlement and Development Agency, which was established in 1968 to rehabilitate the Tibetans who came into India. After the resettlement was over, MYRADA converted itself into a voluntary organization. We work in the areas of health, education, water supply, sanitation, natural resource management, decentralized governance, etc. We work in the states of Karnataka to a large extent, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh to a small extent. I joined the MYRADA board in 1986 when I was Secretary Rural Development Panchayati Raj in the state of Karnataka as a government nominee. Since then, I have been continuing as an ordinary member of the board first, then as the vice chairman and now as the chairman. We are largely interested in livelihood promotion and in addition to that currently the climate change, water, sanitation, etc. This is our background. Now, I have been in this sector first as a district collector in 3 districts of Karnataka. So I started from the basics. Then I moved in as Secretary Rural Development Panchayati Raj. In our state, the subject of drinking water supply and sanitation is with the Rural Development Department only. It has always been. So I was looking at the problems of water supply and sanitation at the state level in Karnataka. Then, after some time, I moved to the Government of India. I was Secretary Rural Development in the Ministry of Rural Development, specially dealing with the Department of Drinking Water Supply and Sanitation. So my advantage is I have seen water supply and sanitation right from the field and right up to the Government of India. Now currently I am working with the voluntary organization for the last 3-4 decades, first as a member and then as an office bearer. So I have a fairly good idea as to what the problems are, and I am very happy to share that with you and respond to your questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. And you were also part of this India WASH Forum, and you were actively engaged in the Global Sanitation Fund, which is now shifted to a Sanitation and Hygiene Fund. So they have also transformed themselves. So let's begin with this evolution of experience. So why do you think, sir, sanitation has come so late in India as a priority? And you were a secretary at that time when total sanitation campaign was launched. So what do you have to say about the evolution of sanitation in the national agenda as well as states, of course?
Let me start from the village. See, when I used to be the collector of a district, I was handling the subjects of water supply and sanitation also. Now, there is a major difference between water supply and sanitation. If there is no water in a village, immediately all the people will come to the collector's office with empty vessels. They will make a huge noise, make the life of the collector miserable, and the collector has to ensure that water supply comes. So the demand is assured. Whereas in the case of sanitation, if the village is not clean, nobody will take a serious note of that. Nobody will come to any office asking for any request. Now the idea is when water supply and sanitation are always kept together, water supply took priority over sanitation. That is the first point. The second point is The same department used to handle both. In our state, it was the Public Health Engineering Department. For them, water supply is a priority. That has got lot of interest, lot of expenditure. Therefore, they would like to concentrate on drinking water supply. In the case of sanitation, it is not construction, it is a question of behavior change. First, we need to go to the people, tell them the importance of sanitation, and then if you do any structure, probably that will be of great help to them. Now, what happens is the government machinery in general and the public health engineering department in particular are not the people who can do any behavior change. They are good in their construction activities. So the question of sanitation getting a priority was never there. All right from the beginning, people will, if you go to a village and talk to them, they will talk about water supply and nothing about sanitation. You have to raise the issue. You have to ask them why your area is so dirty. Therefore, the priority has always been with the water supply. That's the second point I want to mention. The third is, in respect of water, historically, people wanted water. The civilizations were by the side of the river, and water is a kind of a priority for the people. But sanitation was not. Open defecation was some kind of an accepted thing. Nobody questioned that. As a child in my own village, I don't think we had ever a regular sanitary latrine in any house. So the historical facts also are not very much in favor of sanitation. So it took a very long time to start. The government's priority was water. And after that, if there is a scope, then we started with sanitation. Some of us who had taken a lot of interest on sanitation, we attempted programs like total sanitation campaign. Now what happens? This has to be implemented in the field. By whom? The public health engineering department in large number of cases. What is their expertise? Construction. What will they do? They will go in for toilet construction. So you will be surprised all over the country, toilet construction took priority in the sanitation sector than anything else. On top of it, even in the government programs, we compulsorily introduced toilet construction. For example, in the Indira Awas Yojana in those days, this was compulsory. We had put a toilet. Okay, after we put the toilet, what happened? As Secretary Rural Development Panchayati Raj in Karnataka, I went to Mandya district. I visited the village. There, when I went and saw the IOI houses, there was a nice place in which there was a good lock and key, and I was wondering what this is inside. I asked those people, what is inside? They told me, sir, that is what they gave it as toilet. But how can we keep a toilet inside the house? And it is so nice. What we did was we put a small paper on top of the seat, and we have kept all the important things there, and then kept it under lock and key. Now, the point I am trying to make is the mistake we did was going in for construction without making the behavior change. So that is the difference. In water supply, there is no need for behavior change. Nobody need to go and tell the people. They will do it themselves. In the case of sanitation, behavior change is the priority. And since government is not suitable for behavior change management, sanitation took a low priority. I hope that explains the position.
Yes, sir. What you are sharing is that it wasn't a national priority, and historically also we were more water conscious and water starved dry areas. But sir, how do you also see this fact that sanitation is also associated with notions of purity and impurity? That whatever goes out of your body is dirt, and you should not handle it, and the segregation which we saw in Indian villages, like in my village in Punjab, also the upper caste and the other castes never mixed, and their habitations were separate. And identification areas were marked areas. So you could go there to defecate and come back. And that was seen as okay. But construction of toilets and handling of waste was also a strong caste and ethic issue, which is not behavior, it is linked to your whole conception of purity, impurity, and what is dirty and who is dirty, and it gets linked as a social issue. So, where are we on that today, and how? I mean, that of course government cannot address, but just toilet construction, how far has that gone to address that challenge?
I'll tell you, in my own experience, I was chairman of a temple committee in Tumkur district. And that was a very famous temple, Siddhalingeshwara temple. The Lingayat community swears by that god. So what we did was to help the devotees who come there from long distance. We wanted to put up some kind of a structure, some 20, 30 houses where people can come, and we created a scheme. If you give a donation of, let's say, 100,000 rupees, you can come and stay in this house. It will be in your name. You can use it for about 10 days in a year or 20 days in a year. Then, at the time of construction, I put the toilet inside. Believe me, the entire community objected. They said that this is a very dirty thing. You can't put the toilet inside the house, as you said. So, if you want to do it, keep it outside. So, what we did was we put a compound, and the toilet was kept outside, and the house was built inside the compound. Then over a period of time, when it started raining very well in that district, people could not reach the toilet in the night. So they came and told me what can be done. I told them, okay, those of you who are very particular about your religion and upper caste, all these things, you maintain these places. I will put another set of houses where the toilet will be inside. And it is your choice whether you want to stay there or stay here. We started that. They accepted. Believe me, after about 5, 6 years, I am told everybody wants that house which has got a toilet inside and not the one which has got a toilet outside. The reason, what I am trying to say is, this again, we have to make the people accustomed to that. Once you know that this is the comfort of having a sanitary latrine inside your house, then you will get adjusted to that. That is the only solution. My suggestion is, we must leave it as a people's problem. Ask the village panchayats to try. As I said earlier, government agency is not suitable for behavior change. Even some of the NGOs are also very reluctant to go to the village and talk about sanitation. They will do it along with several other things. My suggestion is leave it to the people. Let there be the panchayat which will take interest, and they will have to develop this behavior change. Thereby sanitation will come to the mainstream. The other point is, the government also has got a problem now. People who travel within the country and who take foreign delegations thanks to the globalization, etc., they feel bad to show them the countryside where people sit on the open somewhere early in the morning. If you travel between Delhi to Dehradun to show the academy to the foreigners, what you used to see on the way was a set of people sitting on a line. Now that has got people feel bad. Gradually that has changed. Now I am happy to say that number has very largely reduced. So that is the only way through which we can promote sanitation, and probably it will pick up now.
So don't you think that the messaging should have been that sanitation is not a dirty job, or cleaning toilets is an honorable profession, and more role models in that direction should have been promoted rather than, which was not done. So the focus remained more on toilet construction per se. And this issue of purity and that, I do think it can be addressed. So unless that is addressed, then just making people accustomed to a toilet will take a very long time. But that is happening normally also, because the people who have lived in the urban areas, when they go and or they even get married in rural areas, then they want a toilet in their house because they have used to. But then that takes a very long time, and it doesn't work so easily. But because we raised this issue of habits, so the first rural sanitation program, ARWSP, actually was giving 2,000 rupees toilet subsidy in 81. And when that was the time when people used to have kacha houses, but a pakka toilet. So probably that is the reason why it did not work then. But then, how do you see then there was this whole push of subsidy reduction and CLTS. So on these two fronts, subsidy was reduced to 500 rupees a toilet, I think, in TSC, and then it again has been rising. So what do you have to say on that experience?
See, there are two issues. One is, we would like this manual scavenging to go. How can that be done? In Karnataka, we used to have a minister who brought an order, government order, saying that anybody carrying the human waste on their head, that's an offense. And whoever is responsible for producing that and whoever is responsible for carrying that, both of them will be sent to jail. This had some effect, but as you will agree with me, you cannot change the society through law alone. There has got to be some kind of involvement. When the Swamijis in Karnataka took over, we had a large number of mutts in Karnataka, and the Swamijis started telling, you must have a sanitary latrine, it is good, and you should not make people carry this. See, the habit in Karnataka and also in several other South Indian states is that there will be an open defecation in a particular point, what we call a fixed point defecation. And people will go there, that area is meant only for this, and there is a community of people who will go there and clean that. The second stage was inside the house. We have got latrines but not sanitary latrines. A fixed place where they will go. And the community of people will come there and collect that. Now all that has been stopped. That is the law, legal side. Second, the question of purity is now being addressed by the Swamijis, and as I said, the Panchayati presidents and people like that have started working. The only mistake, according to me, is that we have not been thinking in terms of properly rehabilitating the people who are involved in manual scavenging. That we need to do. If there is nobody who is going to deal with your scavenging, manual scavenging, then automatically you will start looking at the latrine yourself, and then you will improve that. In my view, we should find an alternative, a suitable alternative for the people who are involved in manual scavenging. If we eliminate that, for want of for people to do the job, we will learn to live on ourselves.
So, yes, sir, like Gandhiji himself cleaned the toilets and made that as an acceptable
Yes.
work for his wife as well as for the rest of the Indians. So that kind of a push could have made a lot of difference if that was initiated. Um, and about the subsidy part and the focus of CLTS, where it is seen more as a reinforcement and some force also is used. What do you have to say about CLTS as an approach?
See, others is a very large country. The same solution cannot apply from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Every state has got its own culture, and we have a huge variety of cultural differences within this country. As I told you, when we started, we were talking with what can be done through the public health engineering department, who are experts in construction, and they are willing to construct toilets to ensure that the people feel that it is necessary and they can do it. We introduced the concept of subsidy. But with the subsidy, we were able to only build the latrines, but we have failed in making the people use that. So then the solution was we went to the other side. Supposing if there is no subsidy, and we will start only with community-led total sanitation system. Let the people go first. Let there be behavioral change. And after the change is over, let there be a construction. But anyway, we will give them a small kind of a reward or a gift. So it was brought from 2000 to 500. But in our country, we always go increase, we will never decrease. So decreasing a subsidy is something very strange. So then gradually there is a pressure built up. Instead of 500, we're going to make it more, we're going to bear half the cost. All these things are coming up. But again, I repeat, subsidy is not the critical point. The critical point is behavior change. And if you ask me what can be done, I will rather prefer the subsidy to be given to the Gram Panchayat and ask the Gram Panchayat to ensure that everybody uses the latrine, builds the latrine and uses it. If there is no open defecation in the village, that village should get the award, and we leave it to the Panchayat as to how to distribute that among the beneficiaries. I think that will be a better idea. We will gradually move towards that.
Sir, what is the experience of the last 6 years of the massive coverage of sanitation, toilets, infrastructure? How do you see that, and what are the achievements and challenges there?
See, as I said earlier, water and sanitation cannot be separated. They will be together. We first have to deal with the water supply problems. Briefly, you know the problems involved in water supply. We have been talking about fully covered villages, partially covered villages, not covered villages. Availability of water is the first thing. Now, for that, according to me, we will need to go in for surface water instead of going in for underground water. Anyway, we are not discussing the water issue now. It is better to deal with availability of water, improving the quality, supply of sources, systems, rainwater harvesting. All these are things which we need to do. The first consideration is water supply should be assured. That is the first point. The second thing, what I will mention, is that we must realize sanitation as not an engineering problem, but as a social problem. Luckily, with this various foreign agencies giving adequate funds and also in our India Wash Forum, we have been concentrating on the behavior change, talking to the people and encouraging them to use their toilets. I would like to have a 2-3 pronged approach. First, bring the village panchayats into the center of the system. Sanitation should not be a government program, it should be a people's movement. If you want it to be a people's movement, hand it over to the Gram Panchayat. Ask the Gram Panchayat to manage. The role of the higher level governments will be to fund the Gram Panchayat and ensure that they do the job. Otherwise, do not get into the day-to-day management. What should be the size of the latrine, whether you should have a twin pit toilet, single pit toilet. All these things you explain to them and leave it. After all, what is democracy? The expert and the bureaucrat is expected to advise. He cannot decide. The decision maker is the politician, the minister. A similar thing, why not we do it for the Gram Panchayat? We experts should tell them these are the options. And for your area, which will suit you. So my first advice is bring the Gram Panchayat into the center stage. Second, fund them not only for construction of toilet, but also for management of the waste. In all our programs, we concentrate only on construction of the toilet. We don't even think of how the waste has to be handled. Give them the ideas and again ask them to manage in the way in which they like. If there's a problem, they should go to the higher level, they should go to the public health engineering department, they will go to the private sector, let them get solutions for that. I would strongly recommend that is the way for the future. You leave it to them, ask them to manage, give them the support, have programs for solid waste management, liquid waste management, construction of toilets, all that. The only thing, only condition we will put is your village should become open defecation free. It should look clean. For cleaner villages, we will give award. That should be from the positive side we must look at. Instead of shaming the people, putting their names on the notice board, instead of going on to the penalty side, I would rather like to go on the reward side. A person, a village which is doing very well, that should be rewarded. If you do that, probably over a period of time, this will become a people's movement. If I feel that I am a part of the Gram Panchayat and my village is clean, and I have pride in saying that, probably I will continue with that. I am currently worried in a large number of cases where the villages have been declared as open defecation free, people have gone back. We need to arrest that also. For which also the solution will be to make the Gram Panchayat, their president, their members responsible, instead of putting it on the government, the block development officer or the public health engineering department. That's what I would like to advise.
I've been having this discussion, sir, also with the urban side, and they also tell me similar things. They say the major challenge in water and sanitation is a governance challenge, not a technology challenge, not a institutional challenge of now, creating another body, creating another scheme, creating another level of institutional positions. So a lot of in water sanitation, both urban, rural, this is how it has been. Either you introduce a program or a scheme, or you make another institution who is going to manage it. But somewhere the governance or the political participation is always negated, and it is always a shortcut. And it is believed that if you have political people involved, then they will only work in their constituency and nothing will get done. But then there is no shortcut to this. And I think Bangalore is in that way a leading example where recently the urban sphere, Bangalore is now channeling its treated wastewater from STPs to rural areas. And that is only possible if you have a governance mandate. If there is a political commitment, then you can cross boundaries, institutions, rural, urban, departments. It's all possible. Then only you can do this kind of a convergence. So I think this whole issue is a governance challenge. It's not just Gram Panchayat, but or a ward in the urban, but it has to transcend to the district and the state. And somewhere that is where we are failing. So whichever new program is coming up with some more incentive or some institutional change or some scheme that they think that they will be able to push at least another few hundred steps further. Right?
No,
So
but putting it simply, the politician will not take interest in sanitation. The bureaucracy also will not take interest in sanitation for obvious reasons. They will rather go in for a large scale water supply scheme instead of dealing with a small type of sanitation. Then who will do it? If politician is not doing it, bureaucrat is not doing it, it is the people who should do it. And even the NGOs, they are ideal for behavior change, but not all of them. But if you give it to the people, we can produce NGOs in every part of the country. If you give it to the people who are there in every part of the country, the system will survive. So I would strongly recommend, whether it is urban or rural, we should make the program as people's movement, people oriented and not the government oriented. But government should support. Government has a responsibility. Water supply and sanitation is a state subject. The states have to carry that out. And if they have problems of money, they should take it from the 15th Finance Commission grant or from the Government of India. Providing money, giving ideas on technology, that should be the job of the government. And which technology to choose and how do we manage, that should be entirely left to the local governments, the city municipalities, corporations, and also the gram panchayats. If we leave it to them and keep only the idea of supporting them and supervising them, things will improve.
so that's part of the questions also of the future. So then don't you think that there needs to be some mechanism for governance to play it out at the at various decentralized level, RWA, block, district. So, for example, we are talking of planning, say, water, sanitation, solid waste. And if you have to plan that out, then the existing mechanisms of the planning boards and commissions, they are more administrative in their nature. They just plan and they prepare budgets. But unless you have, for example, take solid waste. So if you have to do decentralized segregation, collection, and some kind of reuse and treatment, then it has to be done at a very disaggregated level. It can't be done centralized. Similarly, if we are talking of sanitation systems in a decentralized manner, which Sunita Narayan and the Planning Commission earlier used to talk about for urban areas, you can't have large centralized systems. Then they also have to be planned with the engagement of officials at a and the the elected reps at a decentralized level. So what do you see as a future, or what can be done? Because you work with the government and within the system. So how can this governance be decentralized and actually take place?
See, as you know, I have been a champion of decentralization in the Panchayati Raj side. That has been my theme for the last 30 years. I strongly believe decentralization will provide the answer because if one person goes wrong, the whole system goes bad in the centralized system. When you have 10 people doing the same job in 10 different areas, all 10 of them by statistical inference cannot go bad at a time. Some will improve. My first point is it should be decentralized management even for solid waste management, liquid waste management, sanitation, all that should be decentralized. One. Second, decentralization does not mean that others should relax and do nothing. There is a responsibility for everybody. It is not necessarily bottom up, but also top down. Both have to come and merge. The decentralized system will say what are our problems, what are our solutions. If they are able to plan the solution, it's fine. If they cannot do it, they go up at the next higher level. Then at the still higher level, we should provide expertise, money for all these things at higher levels. I am not against planning at the state level, but that should have decentralization as a part of that. Instead of starting from the top going to the bottom, can you start from the bottom and come to the top? Please do not stop with the bottom. When it comes to the top, then you will know what things we can do, what things we cannot do. They talk about the principle of subsidiarity. That is precisely what I am saying even in sanitation. It is possible, again and again I repeat, it should be people's movement. And people should come to the central stage. Not the public health engineering department, not the state government, not the NGOs, not the central government. You leave it to them. But all of us are there to help, to support. If they need a technical solution, give. But do not insist on that. If they have a better solution, fair enough. The excellent point about decentralization is it provides different models. You will get several models, and somewhere you can pick up what is suitable for you from those models. Then you centralize, there is only one model, which I am not supporting. Let there be different models, let people decide what is good for them, and if their decision is wrong, you give your opinion. There are experts, say, give them support, saying I will give you more money if you do this scheme. If they are willing to accept, go ahead. If they are very clear about what they want, let them do it. Let's not interfere. That's my point. That is the long-term solution for sanitation. Sorry, I'm not hearing you.
Sorry. Yeah. So you're saying decentralization, political decentralization should happen, and funds and government should be an enablers. So it is not that currently the approach is that we will let you do, but we will not give you anything. So you're saying that should not be the case. Uh, but just one last point which is coming to my mind, sir, in that case is the experience of Swachh Bharat has also shown that in many places, especially Bihar, wherever large-scale construction of toilets happened, the mukhia or the panchayat members became more or less like contractors in the whole process, and they led to, a lot of money being, channeled, but more as a contractor work. So that challenge of a people's movement, I think, is a very basic requirement which cannot be postponed. So I agree with you. I'm not contesting that. Only I'm saying is it will perhaps take a little more time till we have vibrant, participation. And Bangalore certainly has shown the way, at least in the urban side, where a lot of citizen groups have come out and are actually inputting on all policy decisions of the government. So we do hope at the rural level also this is required and will happen. Anything else if you want to add as a last word, please?
I want to add, that is the social audit. In the Panchayati Raj system, we have a Gram Sabha. And in the Gram Sabha, there is supposed to be a social audit. Now, the point which you made about the Panchayat chairperson or the Mukhya increasing the cost of the toilet, making the money out of that, all these things happen. We are a country where these things are very normal. Whether you talk about the lowest level or the highest level, these kind of talks will be there. But the solution is social audit. If there is a regular Gram Sabha and if the Gram Panchayat chairman is supposed to meet the people and tell them that this is what I have done, if there is corruption, they will make a noise. In the urban areas, the Ward Sabha should meet. If there is a construction activity in the Ward Sabha, they should explain that, and if somebody has taken money, people will not leave you. The solution is people and not the vigilance department. So I would only say, in sanitation also, we should have people's gatherings in the form of Gram Sabha or Ward Sabha, where the people who are responsible for taking up that activity in the Gram Panchayat, they should be made to explain and face the music. That is the only solution for reducing corruption in this sector. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot for your points. Anything else if you would like to add? Otherwise, I would just like to thank you once more for giving time. And it's been also a pleasure knowing you personally and having worked with you for so many years.
Thank you. The same here. I enjoyed talking this. Thank you very much. Thank you.